So we'll get into this. Just be short and sweet, but the results that you get are going to look different depending on what you use. I always use this test from the Enneagram Institute. It is paid. It's part of my typing sessions if we do that together, or if it's on your own. I think it's like $12. There are free ones out there, but again, tests are only so accurate because at the end of the day, this is a self-reporting assessment. And so yes, the results that you get will give you clues and maybe help you narrow them down, but I wouldn't just blindly go with the top one. And so that's what we do in these typing sessions, in addition to understanding how to actually use this information. So this is a real life test result. This gentleman, we looked at his top 4 results. So you can see he had pretty clearly a type 9 was his highest, and then he had the type 2, and then tied. I typically just look at the first 4, the top 4, and so he was the achiever. He had the achiever in there, and then the type 7, the enthusiast. And so it's like, okay, it's easy to think, okay, I must be a type 9. That's what my test results said. And that very well might be true. But some things that we'll dig into and we'll talk about a little bit more are, number 1, the first thing that I noticed based on these top 4 results is that 3 out of the 4 numbers were in this positive outlook triad, which I'm going to say he probably is going to be one of these 3 numbers, with all 3 of them being in that top. So 2s, 7s, 9s are all in here. They all express that a little bit differently, but they all have the rosy colored glasses half full. Worth more coaching on here. I know she is a type 9, and I don't think I'm getting confused. I'm pretty sure that's what she is. And I feel those vibes from her for sure. And so, that's something that we'll talk about, is how you handle conflict, how you handle difficult situations, how you handle, emotional pain. And based on that, that'll give us some additional clues into the type. The other thing that I look at and that I'm seeing with these specific results, excuse me, is what in the Enneagram language they call these stances. It doesn't matter. That means nothing to you, I know, but it's basically the energy that you bring to situations. And so being so strongly with type 9, where we'll talk about, what out of this resonates with you, the energy that you bring to going after what you want, getting your needs met. What feels true here. And then because you also had some 3 and 7 in your top 4, we'll also look at the aggressive, assertive stance in this specific situation and talk about, what feels true and resonates in here. And there might be a little bit of both, but maybe there's one that tips a little bit more. So we'll kind of look at that. And that's a clue. We'll take that into consideration. And then, the third thing that I'm going to look at here is I see that he has that strong 9, and we'll go back to the results just as a refresher. He has a, high, strong score with the 9, but then he also has that 3 in there. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is 9 and 3s are arrows to each other. And actually, when a 9 is living their best life, Charity might resonate with this too, you're going to take on a lot of the healthy qualities, the most healthy qualities of a 3, which they're going to be a lot more energetic. They're going to have a lot more confidence and assertiveness, be more decisive, and bring some of that 3 goal-oriented energy, getting the job done, accomplishing things. So, depending on where he is in life, he may have the motive of a 9, but may look a little bit like a 3 if he's going in this growth direction to his arrow. So that's something else to consider. And we all have arrows. Every number has an arrow. Every number has a growth arrow, a stress arrow, and even if it's your stress arrow, there's still qualities that positive qualities, healthy qualities that you'll pull from that. So when you see numbers, arrow numbers in your top 4, or I see that in your top 4 or top results, that's something to take into consideration too. But then at the end of the day, what we'll do is we'll always go back to these core motives and look at what feels most true out of here. So, here's the type 9's core driver in life, and then the thing that they're running away from the most. So we'll pull that up. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about his type 2 was up there, being the helper. What feels true about this? How strongly does that feel true for you compared to the 9? And then I also pulled up the 3 for him to look at, what out of here, like how strongly is this desire? How strong is this fear? And kind of bring that into the mix. And so by the end of the time together, we're looking at his results. We've taken clues, and he's able to kind of decide what able to overlap his answers and get to what he most identifies with. So in this case, he did most identify with the type 9. And that's something that I always say, that's great. You may land on that and stay there for the rest of your life, your Enneagram journey. But try it on. Try it on, because if at any point you start to learn more about it and it feels off, and again, not every single thing about your dominant type is going to resonate 100% of the time, or even 100% at all, right? There's going to be things that don't resonate necessarily. Maybe you have a high energy level. Maybe there's something that you have wings, an 8 and a 1 in this case with the 9. So he might be bringing in some of his 8 energy in a certain situation. So there's all these different things, but the core thing that's going to make him resonate the most with the 9 is that motive is what's going to determine, what your dominant type is, not necessarily behaviors, but those behavior clues can help. So hopefully I didn't confuse you more. Hopefully something in there was a little bit insightful about how to read your own results. Like I said, your results will look different depending on what test you're taking. There are a lot of free quizzes, but this will help you just understand, give you some things to look at so that you don't just feel like, oh, my top one is my top one. In this case, it ended up being that way for him, but it may not always be when you start to look at some of those other clues, and then especially when you start to compare the motives and the fears. So let me know if that was helpful. I would love to hear from you. And if that was, maybe we'll bring up results, sample results on a regular basis and kind of dissect them and see how that can be helpful to you as you kind of look at your own and again start to understand your type. And then Worth More Coaching said, yes, especially being a 9, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of motives are very important. Yeah, because a 9, can take on all of the qualities, very easily, the tendencies, the characteristics, and so it can be hard sometimes for them to determine, what am I, because my behavior might look one way, but the reason why I behave this way is the question, and that's the question for all of us when we're trying to understand what our type is.